Hello and welcome to the United Enigma. I'm your host. I'm just going to give you guys a player ratings on the United versus Arsenal game that just passed this Sunday. Of course, it is a little bit late, but as you guys can tell probably by the subscriber count up there, it is a new channel. And I've just spent some time really working on some graphics. So when you do come and watch my content, you're getting what you deserve, which is quality. So I've worked on the graphics to make sure you're really getting what you came for, essentially. So we're going to go into the player ratings and at the same time discuss how I felt the match went, break down the events of the match, how it unfolded, just to give my perspective of how things went, and of course an open discussion down there in the comment section. Kicking off the match, we're actually starting of course with the goalkeeper, Andre Onana, and he was definitely a key part of this game. He is the reason, in my opinion, why this match didn't end up a stomp in Arsenal's favour. As opposed to the way last year's game panned out at the Emirates, where in spells we did control the game at times. We took the game to Arsenal. I know from a lot of Arsenal fans I spoke to at the time last year, they were surprised at how Man United managed to perform in that game, being how they were so dominant last year during the Premier League campaign. They were surprised at the fact that we were able to come to them and at times not even just sit back, but slightly take the game to them. But this match was very different in that sense because for large spells, even the entirety of the first half and parts of the second half, I'd say, we actually dominated Arsenal away at the Emirates in terms of possession. Of course, we'll get into the fact that we weren't able to really transition the ball forward into the attacking areas, but at least in our third, we did dominate Arsenal and control play. They couldn't really press us. And again, that goes down to Andre Onana. And that was the key difference in terms of control. De Gea being swapped out for Onana. He was actually the player who recorded the most touches for us personally, second overall in the entire game with 58 touches during the first half. That just shows you how big of an impact he had in terms of how we were able to play out from the back. Keep that ball circulating between the likes of Licha and Lindelof really made a big impact on how we were able to hold possession and sort of try to draw Arsenal on. I would have to admit though, Arteta probably got his spot on in the sense that similar to what Pep did last year in the Champions League, he didn't apply a lot of pressure to Onana. He allowed the team sort of drop off in a 4-4-2 and try to sort of keep a structure and be very careful and, hyper aware of how they were pressing to stop Onana playing through them. The big question though, which was a lot of question that Man United fans were going to have when Onana came in to begin with, if you've had about, 9 a decade with De Gea, the best shot stopper in the Premier League era, arguably, for a period anyway, how is the drop-off going to be like changing him out for now a ball-playing goalkeeper who are typically, synonymous with not being able to keep balls out of the net, just looking pretty on the eye. So they tried to blame Onana, in my opinion. I feel like it's scapegoating. They tried to blame Onana for that goal conceded against Declan Rice. Now, could Onana have done better in that situation? Arguably. Goalkeepers shouldn't really get beaten at the near post. However, before we even look at Onana and should he or shouldn't have saved it, why don't we look at everything else around that? And of course, we'll get into that when we get to the players involved who were involved in that situation. For Onana, due to his impact on the game, how he allowed us to sustain control, the fact that because of him and the amount of ball we were able to keep away from home, I believe we didn't go under the typical siege you get when you play against Arsenal at the Emirates. I'll actually give Onana a 7 because he directly impacted the game for Man United to a high degree. So I'm rating it based off of that. Now, of course, people may argue, but he's a goalkeeper. How am I giving him a 7 because of what he's doing on the ball? You have to remember, this is the kind of game where it was quite evenly poised, so he didn't actually go under that much pressure. Arsenal did not have many shots on target, so today he was more so being rated on how he was helping us in possession as opposed to his priority as goalkeeper in terms of shot stopping. There weren't a lot of shots to stop, and that's testament to how we overall played and controlled the game. So Onana, the 7 from me. Hold that, De Gea lovers. Next one now, very simple. Moving on swiftly, we're going to go on to who in my opinion was man of the match. And that would be Dalot. He's definitely not 0, I'll tell you that much. So Dalot had an amazing performance, but not for what we would typically attribute to Dalot, which is, being able to shepherd out and contain one of the best wingers. I've been told Saka, best winger in the Premier League, I've heard. Best young player in Europe, I've heard. Best young player in the Premier League, I've heard. I've heard all these claims, and yet our left back, right back, whatever he is, full back, who can't defend, who isn't good enough, was able to restrict him to little to no chances throughout the entire game. And the only time he got a little bit of joy in the match, which he scuffed this chance, was when he actually moved into a central position. I'd say he was ducking Dalot, which is why he found himself in the striker's position and missed. So for me, Dalot being able to restrict the best young player in the Premier League and in Europe to pretty much nothing throughout the game, although he couldn't stop Jesus at the end, the passion, the drive to actually try to commit to getting back there, at the end of the day, he could have given it up, thought, I've got no chance, I'm out of energy, it is 100 minutes in, Jesus' fresh legs, he still caught him up. I mean, he got embarrassed at the end. I'll probably play the clip here for you guys, but he still held him up. He tried his best, had a great performance overall. Much more to come from Dalot. So for me personally, again, I'll be giving Dalot, it's a borderline 8. I don't do 0.5s on the channel. We're men here. We do not do 0.5s. We go straight to the point. So I will give him an 8. If I'm rating Onana a 7, I have to give Dalot an 8. And people may argue that, of course, you know, he didn't do much going forward, X, Y, Z. However, this wasn't that type of a game. When you're away from home, I wouldn't quite call it a cauldron, but a big home ground with a lot of passionate fans like the Arsenal Stadium, you sometimes don't get to play your game. At times, it's not all about playing your style. In these kind of games, you need to set up to nullify the opponents. And in terms of how we were tactically set up, he did his job pretty much to a T. So that's why I'm going to rank him an 8, even though you could argue he didn't provide much going forward, as you typically would know from Dalot. Simple. So next, we're going to move on to Lisandro Martinez, my man Butcher. The Butcher of Amsterdam. We're going to talk about Lisandro now. In terms of how he performed, it's a little bit of a contentious one. He did a lot of things that we're used to, you know, aggressive, nullified Nketiah. Nketiah couldn't get any change out of him. In fact, I'd say probably followed him into the locker rooms after that, the way he had him pocketed. So honestly, defensively, he's able to marshal his man Nketiah, who I know to try to pin himself against Licha, understanding that he's shorter, so thought he could get change out of him in the air. Didn't win any of the first balls. Man United picked up second balls afterwards because of Licha's aggression. Did well in that regard. However, his passing out of the back was a bit concerning to me. It's not something we're used to seeing from Lisandro. Poor passes out from the back, some stray long balls into no man's land, not really finding those balls between the lines like we're used to, those almost Regista type passes we typically see from him. A lot of safe passes here and there. I don't know if it was instruction from the manager. If it was, then of course that's another story. But in terms of what we're used to seeing from this man, he did not play on the ball as we typically see. Defensively, he was okay. He didn't really have much to do. Did his job when he was called on to, but of course, then have to go into the fact that he did go down with a knock during the game. And luckily, I'm in a privileged position that it's been a few days from now, so now I understand that he's okay. He's had a test and a scan from Argentina, and according to what they're saying, they won't play him in their upcoming game, which is great for us because as a precautionary thing. But in terms of fitness-wise, he's okay. He's okay, so he should come back to us in perfect health. Thank God for that, because again, when I speak about the men that came on to replace him, we better thank the Lord that this guy is going to be playing in the future for us, hopefully against Brighton. In terms of Lisandro, with the heights, with the ability that he has, the way he typically performs, for me, it's going to have to be a 6. Wasn't peak Butcher performance, however, it was far from awful. And, you know, he just did what he had to do. To be honest, nothing more, nothing less, no problems. Next on, Lindelof, another man who had a good performance but went down again. There is something wrong with the medical department at Manchester United. I heard we got in a new doctor. Apparently he's the doctor that actually works with the Arsenal department last year. We're able to pluck him away from Arsenal. Will it end up being a Van Persie signing in the medical room, or will it be an Alexis Sanchez signing from Arsenal in terms of medical? We'll have to see, right? Because from where I'm sitting right now, it looks like it's a Sanchez signing because about what 40% of the squad is out injured. What's the doctor doing? Is it Harold Shipman? Is he the doctor? I don't know, but let's go. Anyway, for Lindelof, same as Licha, didn't do too much, didn't have much to do. Got to be a 6 for Lindelof. He went down ill, apparently. I don't know about this illness. What was it? Don't tell me it was C19 or whatever you call it now. I don't know what's up with this guy, but you can't be getting ill as a professional footballer randomly like that. I don't really understand what's going on there. Hopefully he's back for the next games upcoming because, again, we'll need him. Next. Okay, so we got AWB. This is another man who he's had sort of conflicting reports from a lot of fans on how they believe he performed. On one hand, people say that, you know, he locked up Martinelli. He really kept him out of the game. He stopped him from even being able to have a shot the entire game. Martinelli could not get anything out of him. Every time he went down the byline, stopped his crosses. But the key point I'm hearing from people that have an opposing opinion to, I'd say, probably the majority opinion, which is that Wan-Bissaka did very well during that match, is just the fact that why is Martinelli able to enter into your territory so consistently and so frequently that you end up having to make a last-ditch effort to tackle him, and then he goes out for some sort of a set piece, if it's a throw-in or a corner? Why is it that you don't stop Martinelli before he enters into the danger zone, which is, you know, sort of getting towards the byline, getting towards the penalty area? Why must it always be when he gets into the danger zone? Then, granted, you stop him, which is perfect, but why not stop him 5, 10, 15, 20 yards prior to that? I understand these questions, and it's a fair point, to be honest, because looking at the game from the beginning, I said it in the first half, just man for man, player for player, they were definitely superior to us in terms of physicality, namely height they had above Manchester United. So set pieces are already sort of highlighted as being a potential issue for us, especially without the likes of Varane. Varane is extremely dominant in the air. So without him being in our box today, I felt as if there could have been some issues if we conceded a lot of set pieces to Arsenal. What happened in the end? We'll speak on it, of course. So him giving away a lot of corners, it could have been a big issue at the end of the day. But however, again, Martinelli is one of the best wingers in the Premier League. He stopped him throughout the game. Eventually was subbed off because he was relatively ineffective. So I'd say, regardless of what people have to say, Wan-Bissaka had a great performance. Stopping him could have been a bit better, could have been a bit more on the front foot. Instead of being reactive, could have been proactive. But regardless of that, did he get his job done? Yes. Was the eventual set piece we scored from a result of a Wan-Bissaka reactive tackle? No, it came from the other side. So again, I would say Wan-Bissaka did his thing, marshaled Martinelli, and he gets a 7 from me because in a big game like this, he showed his composure. Even playing out from the back at times, he was quite composed, didn't give away any sloppy passes. So overall, happy with Wan. Okay, so moving now into the midfield, we're going into our midfield general himself, a player that's actually come under a lot of criticism recently for his apparent underperformances, apparent lack of fitness as well. I've heard that this guy is looking fat, and that's what people be saying. Don't know where you're getting that from. The same people saying that. I'd like to see what their BMI is looking like, but no comment anyway further than that. So Casemiro, it was a game of 50-50 game from Casemiro. Very much a 50-50 game. It was better. It was better than some of his performances in the first 2 games of the season, but he has been better since the Nottingham Forest game. Didn't really get beaten frequently in the duels. He did play that assist, we'd call it the assist for the Garnacho goal. Well taken in the end by Garnacho, of course. So that was a positive, and even though it wasn't a goal by the end of the day, but it's not as if it's Casemiro's fault that it ended up not being a goal. Got no qualms there. Defensively, he was assured. I wouldn't attribute Odegaard's goal to Casemiro himself because we got sucked across to the right-hand side. Casemiro was across the cover. Eriksen didn't track the midfield runner on the right-hand side, which is Odegaard, and that ended up being the person who scored. If the goal had come from our right-hand side in the first half, you could have put blame on Casemiro. However, for me, Eriksen is to blame for that goal conceded, as he didn't track Odegaard's movement. He pointed towards him, shirking responsibility, which I don't like. Licha and Eriksen both pointed at Odegaard. Licha held his position to hold the back line, which was his job, no problem. He indicated to Eriksen, bro, that is your man. He's there. Go cover him. What does Eriksen do? Glances, points, turns away, does nothing. Odegaard 1-1. And these are the fine margins we talk about in football. Against a team like Nottingham Forest, they'd probably have gone away with doing that. Eriksen pointing, but not doing anything about it. Then the person on the edge of the box likely wouldn't have the quality to put that into the back of the net. And these are the things that start to worry you when you're going into big Champions League nights, which we will do soon against a Bayern Munich. And if it's Kane popping up inside about 16 to 18 yards in, you're leaving him all that space, Eriksen's still pointing, or whoever it is at the time, if Amrabat's pointing, whoever's pointing, and not blocking him, you think Kane's going to miss that? Bread and butter for the likes of Kane. So we need to get that out of our game, pointing. Casemiro though, couple of misplaced passes, dropped into the centre-back role to play there, sort of adding that extra body into the back three to allow us to play out from the back. Controlled the game a lot. To be honest, he didn't have as many duels as expected, but again, we had a lot more possession than you will typically see against Arsenal. Casemiro was okay. For me personally, I'd give him just, for his standards, it'd have to be just an average 6. But a 6 for Casemiro is a 7 or 8 for other midfielders. Granted, he could do a lot better, and maybe if he had performed quite a bit better, who knows what may have happened this match. On to the next man now. So we've got Eriksen. Already spoke about him a little bit in Casemiro's review just now, so we won't go too deep into that. Of course, I'll talk about the positive first, which is of the assist he played for Rashford. That was tremendous. I have not seen Eriksen run like that at all since joining Man United. It must be the Tottenham gene inside him just started bubbling, and it erupted in that moment, and the guy just went through, ghosted past their midfield, and then slipped an absolutely inch-perfect pass to Marcus Rashford. And typically in Rashford fashion, he destroyed Ben White. Light work, finished it into the corner of the net. Ben White is always unscathed versus Rashford. I just don't understand it personally. Just don't understand it. But Eriksen, great play. I always say this, and I'll say it again. On the ball, we have 11 men. Off the ball, when Eriksen is playing, we're down to 10 men. Because in one moment, blocks the pass, bursts through the midfield, and plays an inch-perfect pass to Rashford, and we go and score. Not many players can do that. If he had passed it too far to the left, it would have given Arsenal time to cover, under-hit it, time to cover. If he didn't pass that ball inch-perfect, Rashford would not have been able to run onto it in such a good area, cut inside, and finish. So that was all down to him. It was a great assist. But then, like I spoke about before, he loses his man and we concede a goal. And even when he notices the ball going across, he doesn't have the legs to cover that space and make a last-minute interception. Doesn't have the chance to correct the mistake that he already made. So in the big games, we cannot have a player like Eriksen in there. As much as I like him, in the smaller games, don't get me wrong, perfect. No worries. Nottingham Forest, he was great. Hopefully against a Luton Town or a Burnley, if he plays in those matches, he'll be great. When we go away at the Etihad, home to Man City, away at the Allianz Arena, a player like Eriksen, he's going to be chicken change. They're going to gobble him up. It's going to be light work. Eriksen overall, again, it was a 6. It was a 6 mostly for the assist. Eriksen can do better. Didn't really create much. Helped in possession, retaining the ball deep. Didn't really do much other than that on the ball. Was quite safe with his passing, which is not an issue again when we're trying to control the game. But a player of his quality, and we're obviously judging him based off his quality, he could have provided us a little bit more in terms of incision and moving that ball from back to front, because the stats don't lie. We were good at controlling the ball in our third, but we barely played any forward passes through the lines into our attackers and into Bruno, for example. and that was where we struggled in terms of chance creation. We had a lot of the ball, but we weren't making those passes, and it's the likes of Ericsson. It's his job typically to make those passes, and he's more than capable. He didn't show it today, but in the key moment, he got the assist. So I'm happy overall. Next, we'll talk about El Capitano, Bruno Fernandes. Bruno's performance, I've heard some conflicting reports. I can't lie. Fans on Twitter, some of them are breathing down Bruno's neck after that performance. Essentially, I'll use Sancho's favourite word nowadays, scapegoating him. Bruno's been somewhat scapegoated for this match that we've just played, and I mean, along with some other people, of course, they've been scapegoated too, but me personally, I just don't understand sometimes the way Bruno performs in certain games or in certain moments. At times, just very sloppy, giving the ball away. One thing we won't discuss, and I won't have it said from anyone when it comes to Bruno Fernandes, is do not ever question his lack of desire. He'll always be a willing runner. He'll always press the most. He'll always play 90, 100, 120 minutes, whatever it takes. He'll give 100%. That's one thing that can never be questioned about Bruno Fernandes, his work ethic. However, sometimes his decision making and quality, because there was a moment in the second half where Bruno was sort of off balance, literally about to fall over, and on the half volley whilst falling over, plays an inch perfect pass to Rashford on the wing. And you just stop and think to yourself, how the hell has this guy just done that? Then the next moment, he's getting caught napping, losing the ball, doing niche. I just don't understand it. And I see why a lot of people that aren't as sort of well-tempered, quite balanced in how they operate and quite emotionally controlled, how they can really be frustrated at Bruno because they see all the good things he's capable of doing, but then for some reason he just has these moments where he just so almost glitches. So I can understand why some people could be really frustrated with how he played yesterday. Tireless work, you know. I saw him leading the team. The huddle at halftime was nice to see. I mean, it's the second time we've lost after doing a huddle. Maybe we should stop doing that though. To be honest, Tottenham, same thing happened. But it was great to see the work ethic from Bruno. However, the quality was lacking in moments. And for a person and a player of that caliber, I'll have to mark him down slightly for me personally. He's a lot better than this. We have to judge him based off the standards that I know from Bruno. Me personally, Bruno was a 5 today. No more than a 5. And 5, he was average. Sometimes very good, sometimes very shit. Simple. But for some people, they seem to think that he was a 4, 3, 2, 1. No. He was not that bad. He still created the most chances in the game. The most big chances created was from Bruno this match, even though the midfield struggled to transition the ball forward to Bruno. With what little ball he had compared to other matches, he still managed to create the most chances in this game. And that tells you the kind of player and the kind of weapon we have. And when Højlund gets in there, I'm sure we'll be eating nice from Bruno. Now it's on to Rashe. We got Rashe, the face of Man United. Rashford's performance, it was dubious, I'd say. Dubious at best. It was, in moments, absolutely electric. The way he took the goal, the way he skipped past Ben White in the second half, made him look like he's not there. And at times, woeful. Losing out in 50-50 challenges with Saka just weak. I get it, Saka is pretty strong to be fair, but no way if Rashford gets his body in between him and the ball and has that real desire and aggression to keep that ball he's losing in that duel to Saka. I just don't believe that. The goal was amazing, took it well. You could argue Ramsdale should do a little bit better, but we all know Rashford strikes the ball very well, so maybe beat him by power. Sloppy in certain moments, poor in others. The worst thing for me, which is what made me really lose my cool with Rashford during the game. Højlund comes on. You have a striker making a long bursting run to support you in the attack, running like a 100-meter sprinter from the halfway line to join you in the box, and you're there stalling and stalling and stalling, and the only thought in your mind is, how do I create an angle to shoot in this moment? How do I create an angle to shoot and score in this moment? Not how do I make Manchester United win in this moment? If in that moment you work in an angle to shoot, or the most likely way Man United were going to score, by all means, Rashford, do it. By all means, do it. But when you have two covering defenders making an effort to get back and they are closing down that angle, closing down that window for you to cut in, like you did in the first half, did it never occur to you to maybe take that to the byline, put a good ball in, similar to the one he did in, I believe, one of the cup runs where Rashford went on the outside? It may have been a Brighton or something like that in the cup run last year. I believe in the FA Cup or the League Cup, when it cut in, went down to the byline, crossed it to Anthony, and then Anthony tapped it into the empty net. Why did he not think of doing the same thing for Højlund? Saliba and Gabriel, Ben White, they were never catching him. None of Arsenal's defenders had any hopes of catching Højlund. If he had done that, maybe we'd be talking about a different game right now and a different scoreline. But Rashford, again, he needs to get that out of his system. He presses when he wants to. When it's like 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes in. After that, he's done pressing, doesn't want to track back anymore. Lose a 50-50, did the same thing as Nottingham. Pulled out of the challenge against Awoniyi, and then what happens? They go on to score. The lack of desire in moments and aggression and just overall drive to be a team player is lacking sometimes from Rashford. And I don't know what's going on personally. I hope there's nothing else behind the scenes I need to know about. I don't want to see his character changing, because as all United fans know, Rashford was one of those guys where easily one of the hardest working players on the pitch back in the day. If you go back to Mourinho's time, is actually why he was favoured over Martial. Especially at that time when they were a lot younger, Martial was clearly the better player, more talented. That's when Martial was still quick, could dribble, better finisher, just all round a better player than Rashford, especially since he was younger, much younger then. But Rashford, he worked tirelessly. That Rashford needs to come back, combined with the experience and enhanced ability of this older version. That's what we need to see, and I hope to see that against Brighton, because we'll need it. For me, Rashford can't be a 5, it was a 6. I give him a 6 just because of how beautiful the goal was. I can't mark him down after that goal. A few decent moments here and there. So slightly above average performance. There were some good moments, but need significantly more in the next games up to come. Great to see him get onto the score sheet though. He needs that for his confidence moving into the season, as he had a poor pre-season anyway. Martial. Yeah, this one won't take too long, to be honest, because the striker that replaced him did more than him in 20 minutes, and he did the entirety of that first half and part of the second half. The man is finito. Finito. Who would have thought this is how Martial's career would pan out? Honestly speaking, he is done. And when I say done, I don't mean done at Manchester United. I believe he's done in every sense of the word. This is a player who at the age of 27 should be primed, raring to go. Absolutely, by this point, with the years of development, should be just electric by this point. Yet, the regression in physical attributes is so massive. It's crazy to see. The man cannot run. This is someone that would have been one of the quickest players at United back in the day. He can't run. His touch seems to have escaped him at times. Cool, good hold-up play at times. However, in other moments, I'm seeing the ball bounce off Martial. I don't think back in the day I ever saw the ball bounce off Martial. Now all of a sudden, I'm seeing some horrendous touches. And I'll just leave myself scratching thinking, yo, Tony, are you good? Can't run. Either run the channels. He drops deep links to play, but then because of the lack of pace, he can't now get into the box to provide an outlet or an option to put a cross into. Finishing, everything's tame. It's like he just can't generate the power in his legs, or who knows, he fears really stretching that leg to really wrap his foot around the ball because he knows his hamstrings are going to go. I'll attribute to that Maybe he can't finish anymore because he's scared of pulling something if he really goes for it. It's sad to see, but Martial, no more than a 5. And maybe I'm being harsh because he just came back. But if I'm giving if I'm giving Bruno a 5 and he actually did, you could argue did a bit more during the game, and Martial can't get any higher than a 5. Am I wrong? Tell me in the comment section. Am I being harsh? I don't think so. Moving swiftly on because there's not much to say about this guy. We're now going to move on to Anthony. Anthony had a good game. I thought it was a bit unfortunate to get subbed off when he did, but of course, in hindsight, Garnacho did score when he came on, so you could say that the manager made the right decision. I don't think he deserved to come off, but irrespective, you can't take Rashford off when we're trying to get another goal potentially, or hit them on the counter when Arsenal push. Try to put a bit more pace and directness on, which is not typically Anthony's game, because Garnacho will give you that run in behind. Again, he scored from it. He held the ball up very well, was composed, took on his fullback. Would have liked to see that a bit more. Did it in spells, but again, Zinchenko, we all know, is very poor. He's basically Trent, by left back. Take this guy on, eat him up. Zinchenko, anyone can get change out of him. Even, I guarantee you, 1v1, even Wan-Bissaka would get change out of Zinchenko. So why Anthony didn't target him more during the game, I just do not know. But other than that, which we already know as United fans is an aspect of Anthony's game which needs to improve, attacking his fullback, he was great in possession, linked play well, retained the ball well. He actually was a good outlet for us as well. Typically, defended very well, pressed well, helped the team keep shape. A lot of good things without being exceptional, but there were a lot of good things. Overall, as a package performance, do we need to see more? Of course we do, especially in the final third. But again, can I necessarily overly scrutinize his work in the final third when in the beginning of this video we spoke of how we struggled to get the ball from back to front quickly into the attacking players with a little bit of space? So can I criticize him for not doing much work in the final third when he didn't get much ball in the final third? Not really. So for me, good performance in a lot of different areas. Was it astounding? Absolutely not. Was it horrendous? Absolutely not. So I'll just go somewhere in the middle. He was above average today, or Sunday should I say. So I'll go with a 6 out of 10. Comment below what you guys think. Please do not tell me anything about what's currently going on with his situation. Based off how you remember his performance on Sunday, tell me how you believe he performed. Please don't go into anything else. That's all I'm saying. Hands up, do not do it. Alright, Højlund, this is a big one. This is the big one that we've been trying to see. Came on and you thought to yourself, yo, we've finally got a proper striker up front. First 5 minutes coming on, what does he do? Bundles Gabriel to the ground twice. Sticks it on him. The minute a striker like this comes into pitch, you know what that does for the team and what it does for the Arsenal team? Because you somewhat want to get tight to him to play off his first touch. You don't want him to roll you because you know he's fast. But at the same time, because of how quick he is, you know he's a threat and you don't want to leave him, so you feel the need to approach him physically. But he's so strong, he'll dash, man. I saw a man dashing Gabriel, who we all know is a physical centre-back, probably around 6'2", big guy. He was getting bullied when he came on to by Højlund. To be honest, the last striker I saw bullying Gabriel properly physically was actually Haaland. We ain't trying to do no comparison though. I'm looking at you Arsenal fans in the comment section. I'm not saying he's as good as Haaland. I'm just saying in terms of physical domination, last time I saw Gabriel dominated was by Haaland. Made a lot of good runs here and there into the box. Link played very well. He was instrumental into that disallowed goal for Garnacho. Few flicks here and there, good bits of hold-up play during the match, allowing us to relieve pressure when Arsenal starting to go for the play, because we're now able to go long into Højlund, someone that can actually win that ball. You saw the way Casemiro grips man up and shook him before we got that corner. You could tell that Casemiro was thinking to himself, yo, we've finally got an actual baller at striker. someone we can hit, someone who can target, someone that can do the nasty work for us. A thug up front. But at the same time, he's got feet like a fairy at the same time. He can do little flicks and tricks. But at the same time, if you want to go to war, he'll go to war. You can't be having people like your Marshalls and your Rashfords only in your front line. You do need someone like a Højlund personality or an Anthony personality type, someone that's willing to go to war. The difference between Anthony and Højlund is when it comes to going to war, he's got the physicality to back it up as well. I'm liking what I see so far from Rasmus. Not going to go over the top, of course, because we don't want to put that kind of expectation on him, too much pressure on him. Start saying he's the next coming of Haaland. We'll see how he does. I believe he'll shock a lot of people. I personally won't be that shocked because I'm expecting good things from him. But we'll see. Højlund, 6 from me. Only because of the minutes he played. Didn't play too long. But for only about 20 minutes, it was a very, very good cameo. And I like what I see. Okay. The man, the myth, the legend himself. The man himself. First question you must ask yourself is, why is he here? Has there ever been a worse captain in the Premier League? Especially for a top side? Why is he still here? He comes onto the pitch and immediately the control we once had in our third, building up possession, evaporated like that. He allowed Arsenal to be drawn onto us constantly, and rather than the way we would normally do it tactically, where you draw them onto you, but then you compose yourself and then find an opportunity to pass to someone through the lines so you can then transition forward, he hoofs it aimlessly down the line, allowing Arsenal to now recycle it. So last year we had De Gea hoofing it back to teams that were pressing us. We finally got rid of him, added the likes of Licha in there and everything, so we can now control games. Even in big games, we can now control the ball. Then we suddenly have to put this guy on, and rather than De Gea hoofing it back to the enemy team, we got this guy hoofing it back to them. As much as for me, Evans was more culpable for the goal we conceded, Maguire was also there. He was also in the mixer. He was close enough to Declan Rice because he took really long to score that goal. You know what? Yeah, they're so bad. I will speak of them together. Garnacho, hold down. I will go to this guy as well. I'll talk to them about them as the calamity pair that they are. Who would have thought that the relegated dynamic duo of Leicester, this is a guy that played for a relegation Leicester team, and our ex-captain, who's a relegated player as well. So we finished the Arsenal game, one of our biggest games of the season, with 2 relegation standard players. That's the players we finished the game with. Back when he first left Man United, this guy wasn't even good enough to play for us. What made anyone think years later he was going to be good enough to play for us? He was passive. He was weak in the challenge under Gabriel. So weak. Then when Declan Rice brought the ball down, he gave him the freedom of London to put the ball at the sky, swing his leg back like a golf puck, and slap that into the net past Onana, whilst he's there throwing his arms up as he's being bullied by Gabriel. He did not need to behave that way. I thought we brought him in for experience. When you're an experienced player, in certain moments, you don't try to play on the referee's decision. In certain moments, you disregard everything going around you and you decide, I am going to go and claim that ball, or I'm going to go and stop whatever situation's going on, irrespective if someone's grabbing me, about to rip my shirt off. I will let them rip my shirt as I go and get that ball off Declan, because the foul may or may not be given, but a shot from that distance in our box has a high likelihood of becoming a goal. There was only a couple minutes left. A draw at the Emirates at the end of the day isn't a bad result. If he had been more proactive more experience, shown more of his experience, he would have stopped it. If you look at it at the end of the day, the ball deflected off of Evans and went in as he attempted at the very last moment to move his body across. So just imagine for a moment, hold up, think about it. If he had shifted his body a second earlier, just 1 second, bearing in mind Declan Rice took a long time to shoot that ball. If he had moved a second earlier, he stops the ball. Or at the very least, it goes out for another corner. Instead, he decides to throw his arms up, look at the ref again, like we've talked about before, shirked the responsibility, looked at the ref, then Declan Rice, as he's winding up to shoot, is just ogling Declan Rice. I don't know, maybe he likes his hair. And he scores. And then we're left to pick up the pieces as Gabriel Jesus finishes the onslaught. These are the key moments that we speak of, and you think to yourself, what exactly are Manchester United trying to achieve here, bringing someone of this caliber back to the club? We genuinely would have done better if we had played Dalot at centre-back than this guy. And that's not even taking the piss. Him and Maguire can both share the exact same rating. They can take the boy Phil Jones's number. Another centre-back who was absolutely useless for us. Him, it's a 4. Maguire, as you can see here, he can be a 4 as well. Pathetic performance from both of them. Useless, not interested anymore. I'm just tired. Get them gone. Never play again. Literally, I'd rather play Casemiro there. I saw in one match that Casemiro had to fill in that he's a better centre-back than Maguire will ever be. And that's saying something. Okay, so the last player we're going to talk about before we wrap things up swiftly is Alejandro Garnacho. Came on, didn't have a lot of the ball, of course, didn't play much. However, in the key moment that he did have, timed his run. Sadly, we were caught this time. You get some, you miss some. We were caught this time. It wasn't a goal in the end of the day, but it was well taken. Well taken. Ran through. And in those moments, a lot of strikers, if you look at little interviews that they've had with journalists or whatever, they'll always describe that the most difficult ones are when you're 1v1 with the keeper, staring them eye to eye. They make themselves big, spread themselves ready, come out at you. Those are actually the most difficult ones. He had a long way to run. The crowd is there behind him. In that scenario is a little bit better since it was the United crowd as opposed to the Arsenal crowd in front of him. Picks a corner, slots it coolly past him, and not for one moment I actually believed he would miss the opportunity. And that's testament, because as much you may say, you know, he should be scoring that. Yes, of course he should be scoring that. But if it was Anthony running through in that situation, no offense to him, I would not have 100% confidence in him scoring that situation. I do believe we could have a player here that does have a sort of hardened mentality. He's able to take that pressure. 1v1 with the keeper. We've seen him already in many moments 1v1 staring down a keeper, and he's able to finish with a bit of authority, gets it right into the corner. Not saying he's ready, not saying he's amazing yet. First couple of games of the season will show you he's not amazing yet. But I do think there is something there. Will he be CR7's reincarnate? He's got the CR7 underpants on. He's not going to be the reincarnation of CR7, but we could have a top player on our hands in a few years if he develops, which is easier said than done, because who's the last player that developed at Manchester United? I'll leave you guys on that point. So I'll give Garnacho overall just a 6 out of 10 for his performance. Didn't do much, didn't do anything bad, took his disallowed goal well. It's okay, to be honest. Running it back, my man of the match was Diogo Dalot. He's who I gave man of the match to. I had given him a 8 out of 10. Can't see here, but I did give him an 8 out of 10. He was my man of the match. Did his job. You guys tell me in your comment section who you believe your man of the match was, and give me an idea on any improvements or any changes I should make to anything you've seen here. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It's been the United Enigma, and we'll be back again with more news, more tier lists and more watch alongs. Thank you. Signing out.